You come to see the frights. You come to see the terror. You come to see the scaredy cat.
So you remember the old trick?
Oh my god, are you serious? Oh, oh god, are you serious?
Yep. Oh, fuck me.
Ooh, Lord. Watch out.
Whoa.
I just had to try it.
I'm just gonna say it. Moose scare the absolute bejesus out of me. They do. Just because how big they are, man.
They don't really me just because I know I don't really live anywhere near them. So
Doesn't mean that you won't go. Doesn't mean that we won't eventually be somewhere where they're at.
yeah, I know my chances of running across a moose are probably never zero, but I just feel like at least they're
Well,
pretty
as someone
low.
who's been to Canada multiple times, I wanted to see a moose, and then I realized just how big they were and how territorial they can be.
And then you're like, I would rather only see a moose from the top of a tall rock spire with a pair of binoculars.
Yes. And of course, they're beautiful creatures. They're huge, they're majestic and all that. I just wouldn't want to run into one in the wild because it'd look at me and basically it'd be like, what are you doing here? Are you... Okay. And then it just starts running at me and just...
Came to the wrong forest, motherfucker.
Exactly. It's just all of a sudden I can just hear it. It's just like, you're in the wrong neighborhood, man. You should go back to the city. You gotta say, this is my hood. You don't come here unless you got something to say. You got something to say, eh? No? You get the fuck off my property, man.
I can also hazard a guess to the answer to the question posed by the title of this video. Why moose are the greatest threat to national security? Because if you were a federal security guard and you were guarding a door and you saw a moose coming at the door, would you try to stop him?
If I had a high-powered rifle...
No, you're just a beat security guard.
Just me.
You got a walkie-talkie and a baton.
And I'm just like... Nope. I'm just
Yeah, exactly.
turning around and walking away.
You're just gonna let him in. Cause
Yeah, all of a sudden, the moose is standing there at the door, and the guy I'm supposed to be guarding opens the door, and he's just like, why is there a fucking moose outside my... And then he gets gored to death.
You're just like, sorry.
Sorry, it's a moose.
I tried to stop him.
I
actually didn't.
It's like, yeah, sorry. I mess with a lot of things. I'll take smoke from almost anything. That's a moose.
Yeah.
I ain't taking no smoke from no moose.
Yeah, I'm not messing with a battle tank deer.
Exactly. So we're just gonna go on and get into this. Let's check it out. Let's see what Casual Geographic has to say. But first, yep, we're still good.
Moose are one of those animals. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that you could look at this picture 900 times and at 901st will still put bricks in your pants. Also, fun fact, this picture's probably the reason you even know I exist. One of the first animal videos I ever made was dedicated to how much of a middle finger this was to my peace of mind.
Every
Well,
picture
back
you ever
then, it's
saw
still
of a
very
moose in a book in like elementary school and just grade school in general,
Yeah.
you never put it next to a car.
No, they don't.
They never gave you size reference, and then all of a sudden you see one next to a car and you're like, what?
Yeah, you think it's like basically like smaller than a horse, like
I
about
thought
a
it
deer.
was just a buff deer, you know? And it's like, no, it's like freaking, it's a Goliath deer.
Yes.
True today. Head up to 1,700 at the shoulders.
What has happened to Sam?
The moose is always going to be one of those animals God forgot to put a size cap on. Moose are part of the Capreolinae deer family. Only problem is this Roy deer is closer in size to an elephant than to a full-grown Bambi. And because you probably think I'm lying, the largest Alaskan moose ever caught was 1,808 pounds and 10 feet tall if you count the antlers.
Damn.
But like, why wouldn't you? Moose are broken in many ways, but the most obvious is how god big they are.
I think I better start back. I can't back up that fast, can I?
The problem with being built like a truck with antlers is that very few things in nature have the ability or the audacity to ever try to check you. And while moose calves are obviously vulnerable to predators, there just aren't enough things in the world that are bold enough, desperate enough, or stupid enough to want smoke with a full-grown bull moose. And while wolves might hunt them, even a wolf pack will hesitate to test a healthy male moose's ability to turn you into past tense. And as solitary hunters that occasionally get their pushed in by smaller animals like the guanaco, most cougars won't even bother with a full-grown moose. In some places, grizzly bears have been known to murk adult moose, but when the only thing in your area code that has even a chance of humbling you is literally one of the largest predators on the planet, that is a problem. And if you're 10 feet tall, pushing 2,000 pounds, wearing tree branches for a hat, a bear isn't going to try you unless it's its last possible option. Which is why one of the biggest threats to a healthy, full-grown, aggressive bull moose is an even bigger, aggressive bull moose. And that's because in what I can only describe as a dick move from nature, the same antlers that help it get laid are often what gets it laid to rest. Sometimes fighting males will get their antlers locked together, and that's basically a death sentence. Because two moose that are stuck together and can't break free will either starve to death, die of exhaustion, or a lucky bear will find them and take the 2 for 1. Exhibit A, these are 2 male moose that got locked together and ended up freezing in a lake.
Dope.
Speaking of lakes, moose can swim. Because of course they can.
Yeah.
I don't know who told them, a moose somehow figured out there's a good amount of food in lakes, so they'll dive up to 20 feet down to feed on the aquatic plants and vegetation.
I mean, and plus, like, you're on one side of a stream, a moose is on the other side of a stream. If he really wants to get to you, there's a good chance he can literally walk across the stream, even if it's pretty deep.
What's going to stop him? What's going to stop him from getting you?
It's like he's 10 foot freaking tall. Like he can. Well, I mean, that one was 10 foot tall, but
And he can dive 20 feet.
It's like it could be a 7 foot deep stream, and he's just like,
He's like,
oh, I'm just gonna walk on over there.
He's like,
and
all right, I'm
get
just
you.
going to put my head up real quick. Okay. Yeah. Woo. Water was a little cold, but I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Not even swimming. He's just.
he
trotting
walks.
over.
He trudges.
Yep.
At the lake bottom. As better swimmers than me, it's really not uncommon to see a moose swimming in an inlet connected to the sea or phelpsing between islands as they search for food. And at this point, you probably know exactly what direction this video is about to go in. Because this right here is how this ends up happening. Because the moose is basically defenseless in the water, and because orcas always choose violence, the killer whale is the only known marine predator of the moose. To be fair, Greenland sharks have been found with moose remains in their stomach, but for my mental health, we're going to assume the moose are already dead. But the truly messed up part is the only reason the moose even put themselves in this position is because they were looking for food. It's like finding a shortcut to Stop and Shop and then getting clapped in the car at a red light on the way there. And since orcas don't see humans as a reliable food source, at least once in the history of mankind, some guy lived through this and probably never slept well ever again.
Yeah.
So his therapist...
Yeah.
Imagine seeing that. A moose, you're underwater and you see a moose. It's not necessarily chasing you or anything like that. And you're just like, oh my god, there's a moose underwater and it's all of a sudden you see a shadow from the side of your eye over here. That shadow turns into an orca. Orca eats moose and dives back down to the bottom into the depths of the darkness of the ocean. Pants have been shitted.
Yeah.
Lives have been ruined.
Well, see, like, if I'm that guy looks like he doesn't even notice the orca yet. It's just, he's like, there's a freaking moose coming at me under the water. And he's already pooping himself because moose is coming at him under the water. And then he's about to see, obviously, the orca eat the moose. And he's just like, what the actual fuck?
Damn, nature, you scary.
Yep.
drives a Bentley. And that's basically a walking snowplow. An adult moose can sprint through 6 feet of snow at about 15 miles per hour. Those numbers might not mean much to you, but I can personally guarantee you this video will. Now ask yourself what's scarier, this moose running through snow or what in the possible it could be running from. And then there's this.
Yeah.
I don't even really know how to describe this. 2 options, either the water's shallow or that's Jesus Christ in moose form.
The water's
Moose
not
size,
shallow.
if you
They're in a
will.
boat
For an
going
animal
over
that's
it.
big enough and tall enough
It's
to have
running
its own
on the
Wi-Fi,
damn
moose
water.
can sprint at top speeds of 35 miles per hour.
Damn.
Usain Bolt at his best maxed out at just under 28 miles, meaning not even he could run from the smoke. Now there's probably 2 reasons why you've never seen a moose run at top speed. Well, number 1, when you're built like a tree with legs, there isn't a whole lot in the world you need to run from. And number 2, anyone that manages to motivate a several 100-pound moose into breaking an Olympic record probably isn't going to be alive to talk about it. In a country with bears, cougars, and Florida, the most dangerous animal of all is a 10-foot vegan with antlers. But it's not really their fault. Moose are deer, and as a rule, deer are just menaces to society. In America, deer cause about 1 million car accidents a year and about $1 billion worth of damage to add on top of it.
Yep.
And the
Yo.
moose is by far the worst deer to hit. On a scale from 1 to absolutely your bunkmates would whine seeing if this game of Grim Reaper is ever on the road with you.
So you
They
may
say
as well
should
hit a
never
brick wall.
Yes.
or to avoid hitting an animal 95% of the time because you can lose control of your vehicle and end up hitting something way worse. That 5% is reserved for when this is on the road, because if your choices are hitting a moose or swerving, then your next choices are opened or closed casket. And because moose are so disrespectfully tall, hitting a moose often means taking out its legs. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. Only problem is moose are so goddamn big that they can often fall through your windshield. And
This is why I'm in
and then you get crushed.
Yeah, this is why I want to get like a bull bar bumper on the front of my truck if I ever go north again. If I ever am driving my truck north, I'm getting one of those put on because when you hit something, it naturally has like the shield of it naturally like, knocks it down. Whenever it hits it, it makes it pushes it down like that. They actually have those as standard on most like big trucks in Canada, Texas, Montana, North and South Dakota. Jesus.
It's like I've heard that just hitting regular deer, the same thing can happen. They can end up coming through your windshield.
Yeah.
So that's why the one time that I hit one, or it hit me, I literally was like, ah! Like, I thought I was going to die because I had heard that before. And, like, it slapped its face right on the windshield, like, right in front of me. And, like, I looked into its eye in slow motion, and it was as it, like, shoulder dropped the front end of my car. And I was like, this is how I die. The deer's going to come in and kill me. And thankfully, it didn't hit my windshield that hard.
A headline. The worst part is because they're so tall, their eyes don't reflect in your headlights the way they would for a normal-sized deer. That, combined with their blatant disregard for anyone else's life, means in moose country you can easily go from a person to a pack faster than you can break.
Well, I don't think that moose survived that one.
That was a small moose too. I think it was a baby.
Just know that if it ever comes down to your car versus a moose, the moose might walk away, but you're not coming out of there without wings and a halo. But of course, moose don't need to be on the road to put you on a stretcher, and this is what makes them worse than the cougars and bears of the world. Predators like mountain lions or grizzlies don't normally see humans as happy meals, so most encounters are either territorial because some dude was either unlucky enough or stupid enough to get too close to their cubs. These guys are different. Different as in they'll river dance all over your back, and they don't really need a reason to do it. As big as they are, they're still a very much valuable prey animal, especially if they're young or sick. And due to the generational trauma of being constantly hunted, moose are naturally wary, which makes them much more likely to attack unprovoked. It gets worse when people forget that they only have one chance at life and attempt to waste it by feeding a moose. This often leads not just moose but wild animals in general to associate humans with food, and with association comes expectations. A moose that's constantly been fed by humans is only going to expect food whenever it sees them. In a moose's head, it just makes sense. And failing to meet a moose's expectations is exactly how heaven gains angels. It's most volatile when it's in rut. For those of you that don't know what rut is when male animals like camel or deer experience a surge in testosterone, which causes them to become more aggressive and more interested in mating. And for those of you that already know what rut is, I know how you know. I know how you know.
I knew what it meant.
And for moose,
I feel like I'd heard that word a
testosterone
long
turns
time
into
ago,
10-foot
like on
front.
Animal Planet or something.
Me and my dad, when we went hunting, he would explain to me, you know, you could tell when a male was in rut because of just like his behavior. And it's just like,
Boys on spring break, and sometimes they
Well,
cause
thankfully,
just
I
as much
don't get what
damage.
his reference
Every
is
year in
from I
America,
Know How
Canada,
You Know,
people
so
visit the
I'm not
emergency
one of
room
those
because they
people, I
got too
guess.
close to a moose, and that moose decided to play hopscotch on their back. Sometimes moose cut out the middleman completely and just pull up to
Reminds me of the
themselves.
Leprechaun, where the Leprechaun's singing like, I'll play pogo on his lung.
look at that.
You kind of kicked me a little bit, but
Because moose are such a roadblock on the highway of life, once upon a time the USSR actually tried to domesticate these deer on steroids and then ride the tanklers into battle on a moose cavalry.
The
Results
tanklers.
were mixed. Once again, as a
Yeah.
prey animal, the moose were naturally terrified of gunfire, and many of them refused to allow themselves to be ridden into battle. Not to mention the moose were much more susceptible to diseases and much harder to feed than horses, so yeah, it was up for that. But there had to have been one kid that joined the military to pay for college only to have his ops pull up on a whole-ass moose. If we're being honest here, that story just says more about the Soviet Union than it does about the moose. But back to the moose. Are overgrown all-terrain vehicles with legs, antlers, and audacity, and probably the reason Canadians are so polite. They're landlords of moose and they pay taxes to geese. You'd be humble too. Pretty sure this is the part of the video where I'm supposed to tell y'all to subscribe. Have a nice day. Alright, so moose drop their antlers every year but grow them back in the spring because they use them to flex for females. And at first the antlers grow inside this soft skin with tiny hairs called velvet. But eventually the moose has a surge of testosterone where they basically become 7-foot frat boys on spring break. That's when the velvet sheds and the bones of the antlers harden. The velvet stays on the antlers for about 3 to 4 months until the moose rubs up against trees and bushes to remove them. Which is why they look like they bundied somebody. As much of a hate crime as this looks like, it doesn't hurt the moose at all, and it's a lot like snakes shedding their skin. If anything, it's more like an annoying itch. Also, when a bull
But it looks metal as hell.
No doubt.
So I was kind of wondering about that. They always look like they gored someone with their horns because of that.
Yeah, they do.
Just like you and me. Except their version involves digging a pit, peeing into the pit, and then rubbing and splashing a golden pool all over their antlers the R. Kelly way. Clearly they know what they're doing because smelling liquid sunshine causes the female moose to ovulate because nature's just weird like that.
Fair enough. Also fair enough.
Yeah, I get that. Oh, Jesus.
Moose be pretty terrifying.
Moose are freaking horrifying. I mean, oh my God. So, alright. I wouldn't say they're the greatest threat to national security. I know that that's sort of like hyperbole on his part, but...
If they wanted to be, they could be.
If they wanted to be, yes, but I would say they're probably just, you know, they're just moose. They exist and they do what they do.
And woe be to thee who accidentally exists in the same vicinity as one of them.
Oh, no doubt.
Because
No doubt.
you probably won't for much longer. Unless it just deigns that you were spared this day from the moosey madness.
Yeah. God, dude. I swear. Every time I watch one of these videos, I get more and more just paranoid about nature. I'm just like, And this one confirmed a pretty big thing about moose that I figured, but I wasn't aware of. And now I'm even more terrified of moose. Thanks for that. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Casual. You do good work. May not be work that makes me sleep at night, but it's still work. Still good work. Alright. I think that's going to do it, everybody. This was Why Moose Are the Greatest Threat to National Security by Casual Geographic. If you want to see more from Casual Geographic, feel free to click his name in the title of the video. Till next time, though, I'm Nate.
I am Nick.
Y'all take care. Peace.